ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
Elmore deep, left side three is good! From 30 feet, John Elmore!
The Drive with Paul Swann.
Welcome into the Wednesday, June 26th edition. The Drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for tuning in. Where do we go today? Well, in our continuing chronicles of all college football during this possible non-realignment, I can say this. It is official now. So what happened today was that UConn is officially leaving. There's going to be an announcement at Madison Square Garden. That's coming up tomorrow. That's pretty cool. They're going to do their announcement at Madison Square Garden. Their school's board of trustees approved the move to rejoin the Big East Conference today, and they'll make that announcement tomorrow. MSG, I mean, if you're going to make an announcement, why not go to the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden? Now, I'm a little biased on that just because I have enjoyed for so long New York Rangers hockey, and I do love the city of New York, so I'm a little biased on that. But still, you're announcing that, hey, we're going to the Big East, Madison Square Garden. I mean, Madison Square Garden and the Big East. That's all I need to know. That's why I still like that conference. And so now I've been scouring the news wire, just see what people are talking about, kind of get a feel for what this might be, if the American might decide to pick up another team or not. And the first one that I really want to reference is, of course, Sports Business Journal. John Ireland, he's reporting that ESPN, they do have the right to renegotiate the terms of their deal. It's a 12-year deal. It's a $1 billion deal. And they signed that back in March. Now, with really all contracts in this day and age, when it comes to sports, ESPN has wisely put a clause in that they can open up the deal if a school left the conference. So what happens here is that has been activated now. You get a redo of sorts. Now, I don't know how much of a redo that's really going to be. Because I think what's going to happen is ESPN's probably going to talk it over at the conference and say, look, we want to maybe tweak the deal a little bit because, let's be honest, UConn, not a football school, so this wasn't football related, but this was basketball. UConn has a name in basketball. Women's basketball especially, but basketball nonetheless. UConn maybe not so happy with the deal because they didn't like being relegated to ESPN Plus, and I wouldn't think that really happened. ESPN Plus is supposed to be a gigantic platform now for the American. That's supposed to be a place where you can just find the American. If it's not on ESPN proper, more than likely it's going to be on ESPN Plus. Me, for one, I'm all about it. But here I am. I'm in Huntington, West Virginia, okay? I get decent broadband. I've got a streaming stick on a pretty decent TV. And for a few bucks a month, even with my budget, let me tell you, if you see my paycheck, you would weep with me. Even on my budget, a few dollars a month, okay, I get ESPN Plus. Now, is that really a thing for UConn? Used to big-time basketball on big-time network with big-time money. A national champion. This is UConn in basketball. Is that going to fly with UConn? Well, obviously not. So now Fox Sports has got to be loving it, or FS1, however you want to brand it. FS1, got to be loving this because now, they're going to be enjoying a lot more. They're going to definitely be enjoying having some UConn. And, of course, this is all 2020. This isn't happening yet. But they got to be loving this right now. And so the door opens. ESPN can open up the deal. But I don't think this was a clause that was put in because of UConn. Well, maybe it was for basketball, but this is a football thing. It really is. Because what if UCF left? If UCF leaves tomorrow, what's left in the American? You got Memphis, and Memphis is not the basketball school it once was. It's still really good, but it's not the basketball school it once was. Football's gotten a lot better. And you've got Cincinnati. They want desperately to get out of the American. They desperately want out. Houston would jump in a heartbeat. They want out. USF, I'm sure they want out. Yeah, those are the schools you're looking at when you see this deal. You're thinking, okay, what is the American? When you think of the American, you think of American football, the AAC. You think UCF. You think Houston. You're thinking Cincinnati. Memphis. Thinking those schools now with respect to Tulane. And so here's the clause. ESPN gets to open it up now because we paid $1 billion for this collection of schools with the understanding that we're getting these schools. Because if you're UConn, you're going to tell me that you're going to be relegated to ESPN Plus. I think if you're UConn, you get featured on ESPN proper a lot more than you get relegated to ESPN Plus. That's just me. But again, for me, I'm okay with it because, let's be honest, Conference USA TV deal is terrible in regard to the other conferences. But it's gotten better. And I like the fact that it's ESPN Plus for certain games now. And I have that service, so I'm good with it. And it's a lot better than BN. Noble attempt, not really where it needs to be. CBS Sports Network, I always have good things to say about them. I think they do a good job. Probably an underrated network. But CBS Sports Network, definitely not ESPN as far as eyeballs, household, market share, mindset, mind share. Not Minecraft, but mind share. And then you've got Stadium. That Stadium, I don't know, Stadium could be something. Maybe with Sinclair, if the deal goes through, and they've got all those regional sports stations that they're picking up. Remember that Fox-Disney merger, that deal? Department of Justice said you got to spin those off. You can't have all that sports. And so Sinclair wins at a reduced rate, they win the bidding. They get those regional sports networks. The Fox Sports Ohio, Fox Sports Cincinnati. You know those. Those are the ones I'm talking about. And what if they become a better player in the sports space, or even a bigger player? Not just a better player, but a bigger player. What if that happens? And there's an option for you. Stadium could grow. Stadium could grow. And here it is. Marshall's on the ground floor of Stadium. Still not Mothership, still not FS1, which really, right now, FS1's loving life because they're going to get UConn for basketball, and that's really what it's about. And for ESPN, they get an opportunity to visit this thing. They're going to visit this thing. Now, they might be saying, look, we need somebody in this conference. We're going to drop you down a little bit if we don't get what we want, or this is how we see our media partnership. This is what works for us. The conference could say, no, this isn't a deal. But I don't think the TV money is going to get completely dinged. But at the same time, the American might not be able to say, look, we're going to stay at 11 football schools. We're going to stay here. We don't want to even this up. We're going to enjoy 11. TV can say, yeah, but you might get a different deal. Now, if this was UCF we were talking about, oh, yeah, this thing's going to renegotiate it. If this is Cincinnati, I'm sure there's a renegotiation. If this is Houston, yeah, I'm sure there's a renegotiation. This is UConn. Yeah, they're going to renegotiate, but I don't know what kind of impact that has. And will there really be a pressing? If TV decides, look, hey, this is the deal. You want to soften this blow here because we really don't want to open this thing up. So here's what we would like to see happen. Not to tell you how to run your conference, but this is what we'd like to see happen. I mean, you could see another school. And BYU, that name keeps coming up. Football only. Because BYU wants in a group of 5 school. A conference. They want in a group of 5 conference. They want to be a group of 5 school. They want in. And going independent was best for them, but they can't sustain that. So they might have to take a football deal. If the American invites, if the American senses that they're open to it and they make the invitation and say, look, let's do this in football, BYU could be added to the American, and then all of a sudden the American strong as ever, right? Because you get a better football school than UConn, way better, much bigger following for football. That makes an impact. That's a bigger deal. That's splashy. BYU playing football in the American, competing. And yeah, I know the travel is going to be rough, but welcome to college athletics 21st century style, where geography does not matter. And you've got BYU competing for championships. You've got BYU. Maybe if they go through the American and do really well, they've got an outside shot of getting into an Access Bowl. And they start building up the program, maybe makes football a lot more attractive, and then, lo and behold, they get that invite that they covered so much. I mean, this is possible. Now, what's it mean for us as far as Marshall's concerned? Well, Marshall's not in this conversation. And I know that probably upsets you. Marshall's not in this conversation at all. And we can go over some of the reasons why they should be. But at the end of the day, Marshall's not in this conversation, not even on the table. And just looking, kind of getting a feel for what is being said, Marshall not on the table in many people's minds. We'll talk a little bit more about this. We'll get your phone calls in as well. You can join us, 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. I've got Twitter as well, at Paul Swann, fired up, ready to go for you. I got a couple of interesting comments yesterday. We'll go over those, and we'll get what you've got for me today as well when we continue with today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
(877-420-TALK), 877-420-8255. That gets you on the program today. You can join us on the Miller Lite phone lines. Miller Lite, hold true. Great taste, only 96 calories. It is the original light beer. Now, we've been talking about the American Athletic Conference. Does Marshall have a shot at this thing? I want to say yes. I do. Not really. I'm not saying Marshall doesn't belong, and I'm not saying that Marshall wouldn't be a great member or Marshall capable. I'm not saying any of that. I just don't think Marshall's got a shot. Just don't think it's going to happen. And again, we don't even know really, does Marshall want to have a shot? Would Marshall be interested? Or is Marshall happy right now with conference alignment as it stands, with the members they are working with in Conference USA? What does this do to the athletic department? I mean, you got to buy out of conference, then you got to buy in, and then you're not going to get that money right away, right? Right? Well, and again, some of you think, look, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the deal is. This needs to happen. This needs to happen completely. So I got some interesting Twitter thoughts yesterday on this. And here's one that I thought was really to the point. I don't know if this is the full temperature of the fan base right now, but this is one that I liked. Quote, "We don't play for football titles with any regularity. Doc, been twice, won one in 9 years. If we're not going to play for titles, I'd rather not play for them in the ACC, making $7 million a year on ESPN ABC than in CUSA making $400K on Facebook Stadium. Marshall falling into obscurity in Conference USA." Okay. that's a valid point to the standpoint that you're going to play your football on a much better distribution platform if you're on ESPN, if you're on ABC. And again, I'm not tuning in at all to American football, so I couldn't tell you if they were on ESPN 5. But TV package is better. Marshall on Facebook on Stadium. Look, Stadium could rise. Stadium could be this Leviathan about ready to rise from the depths. It could be this Titan ready to come forth and be the new 21st century sports network that we all deserve. Or maybe not. But that's a valid point right there. Where would you rather be? And the reason that resonated with me is because as a NHL fan, for years I'm thinking, take the ESPN deal. Take the ESPN deal because you're going to be on ESPN, which means you're going to be on ESPN. And that's not a shot at NBC Sports Network. I think they do a fantastic job with their hockey coverage. I just think if you're trying to push your sport and become a bigger brand, you got to be on ESPN. You want to be a bigger brand, you be on ESPN. It's just that's where everyone's at. Even though people are cutting the cord, at the same time, I haven't cut the cord, and I've added, congratulations, ESPN. I'm spending more now for your product and actually enjoying the streaming service enough to continue the subscription. I have that right now. I do not have Netflix. I have that. Don't worry, I'm rectifying that Netflix thing. That's going to be, I'm picking that thing back up in July. There's some things I do want to watch, but that's just an aside to this right now. But the point is, you want to be where the people are, right? You want to be where the people are. You want to be seen where the people can see you. You want to be heard where the people can hear you. You want to be where the people are. And right now, it's ESPN. It's ABC, right? Heck, Fox Sports 1, you take that. I mean, you're not going to make college football waves on Stadium. You're not going to make college football waves on, sorry, even though I think you do a good job, CBS Sports Network. You're not going to get to that point just yet. So, Marshall falling into obscurity on Conference USA's television package. Well, how do you fix that? And I go back to, well, when? Because I go to this tweet right here. I'm not picking on the tweet. I'm just saying, when? 1 in 9 years. Doc's been twice, won 1 in 9 years. Well, that means Marshall's got to be more competitive in Conference USA football. You got to be more competitive to win the Conference USA championship. Now, you're going to a bowl if you have a winning record, so okay. That's going to happen no matter what. You're going to go to a bowl. It might be a nicer bowl than you go to. If you win, you might have a little bit more control which bowl you're going to because it's a long shot for any school that is in the group of 5 to get themselves into an access bowl. I completely understand and concede that point. I would not even dare argue that Marshall is going to make an access bowl shot anytime soon because, let's face it, Conference USA is not highly regarded. That's not a Marshall issue. Directly, it's a Conference USA overall issue, but Marshall can help itself at least by winning. You win enough, I hope everything falls into place. That's sort of my stance. You win enough, it's going to fall in place. Marshall basketball, you win, it starts falling into place, but I throw out in that argument as well, you got to win those non-conference games. You can schedule all of these nice schools you're going to have home and homes with, and you're going to play some of these name programs, and you're going to play Notre Dame, and that's amazing. You're going to play the academies, the service academies, and that's amazing, and you got to win those. You got to win. And then your brand improves. Because right now I think Conference USA has a brand issue. I think Marshall does not have a brand issue. Marshall has a in-conference brand issue. We're in a conference where not many people talking about it. It's just not being talked about. Conference USA not dominating the sports conversation, the landscape. And so, yes, I can see where the American would be so attractive. But do you want to be in the American? Is that where you want to go? We'll take your phone calls, 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. On the other side of the break, it's The Drive on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Now, back to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. By the way, if you haven't already, even though he's not working at the moment, he's having fun in life. Doug Smock. Still follow him on Twitter because yesterday someone dropped a Power 6 reference, and I was asked about it. And I told the person who was on the show with me yesterday I would Doug Smock them. Doug threw me a quote. Power 6 my foot. Doug Smock's thoughts on the Power 6 status. I'm Paul Swann. This is The Drive, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. The phone lines are open for you, 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. We go to the phones. We have got Todd. Go ahead, Todd. You're on The Drive.
Hey, Paul. Love the show. I was just going to let you know, put me down for a no on going to the American Athletic Conference.
It is noted. You are saying no. Now, what's the turnoff for you?
Well, I think when you look at our enrollment numbers compared to the enrollment numbers of the teams that are currently in that conference, I just don't know how we can be asked to compete against that. But I would like to make a suggestion.
Okay.
Just because I'm not pro-American Athletic Conference doesn't mean I'm not in favor of a conference move. I'd like to throw another suggestion out there. How about the formation of a new conference?
I've thought about that myself. I really have. And you could take the best parts of Conference USA geographically. You could probably take the best parts of the Sun Belt geographically, and you could form a new Eastern Conference. Maybe you take parts
and
of
Paul, you put an interesting word in there, geographically. You know, shouldn't college football conferences or college sports conferences make geographical sense?
I think they should. I think it's a grouping of like universities. That's what it should be, a grouping of like universities that it's no fun. I mean, you're talking UTEP. It's no fun. I mean, UTSA, that's no fun. Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, that's fun. Because you see those fans a little bit more.
Yes. You know, who would we throw in there, Paul?
That's a good question.
You know, you mentioned two right there, Western Kentucky and Middle. I think those are two that definitely need to go. I think, how about Appalachian State?
I'd take them in a heartbeat. How many teams are we inviting to this thing? Because, it's got to have Marshall. You got to take Southern Miss. I'm not giving them up. Take Marshall, Southern Miss, Western, Middle Tennessee. Who else you take? It's a good question, isn't it? Who else would you take from Conference USA? I mean, do you take a Florida school? I think we've lost Todd. We're going to try to get him back. So, Todd, if you're listening, call back. I want to continue this with you. That opens up a line for you at 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. Number, once again, 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. So, I'm taking Marshall, Middle, Western. I got to have Southern Miss. I don't know. I don't know if that would fit. Well, then again, we're taking some Southern teams in the new conference here. Southern Miss makes sense for me. And then where do you go from there? Where do you go from there as far as the Sun Belt's concerned? Obviously, you want Appalachian State. Right? That's what you want. You want Appalachian State. Do they want to leave the Sun Belt? Or are they striving? I mean, I've heard their name thrown out for this open spot. But here's the Sun Belt right now. The Sun Belt more like the bottom of the country geographically. Seriously, this thing should be called the 36th parallel because it composes states of Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Kansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Nevada, New Mexico, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, Tennessee, and Utah. That's your Sun Belt. So now, that's not the actual conference, but that's the Sun Belt itself. So in that footprint, let me clarify that. I don't want to confuse you. The teams in the Sun Belt Conference itself, but the geographic makeup of the Sun Belt is pretty much almost all of those states. And you got Texas State, UT Arlington, Louisiana, South Alabama, Louisiana Monroe. You've got Arkansas State. You don't take UT Arlington. They're not a football member. Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina. So, who do you take in this thing? All right. I think you have to take Appalachian State, Coastal Carolina, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, and Troy. South Alabama's on the border for me. Okay, so that's 5 right there. Those are 5 I'm possibly taking. But, Arkansas State sitting right there. Arkansas State sitting right there. That might be an okay. I mean, if you're going to have middle in there, you might as well look at Arkansas State. Just because where Arkansas State sits, you might get some play out of that. But does that even interest you? Does a new geographic conference, and so you could have the West Division of Conference USA take sort of the Western members of the Sun Belt Conference, and you could see Conference USA's East Division take some of the Eastern members of this thing. And this Sun Belt Conference, which was established in 1976. So I don't know if they're looking to, merge or to expand or contract that way. But then you got Western Kentucky and Middle sitting there going, wait a minute. We just left this thing. And we came to Conference USA because this is supposed to be better. This was supposed to be better than the Sun Belt. Right? Florida Atlantic, this is supposed to be better. Conference USA, supposed to be better. UAB, a former member of the Sun Belt, this is supposed to be better. Florida International, this is supposed to be better. Louisiana Tech, this was supposed to be better. UNC Charlotte, hey, we left the Sun Belt. This is supposed to be better. Because, well, they were in that thing once upon a time. Old Dominion was in that thing once upon a time. I mean, most recently, you had Western Kentucky leave for Conference USA. You had also Middle Tennessee leave for Conference USA. And you had North Texas leave for Conference USA. FAU left in 2013, Conference USA. FIU left in 2013, Conference USA. They're leaving the Sun Belt thinking this thing's supposed to be better. And so with those members pushed back, like, whoa. Wait a minute here. We didn't go through all of that just so we could be in Sun Belt 2.0. Sun Belt 2.0. Okay, we got Todd back. We'll take Todd's call before we hit the break. Go ahead, Todd. I wanted you to finish your thought.
Hey, Paul, sorry about that. Yeah, I think we were talking about how many teams we're going to take. And 12 to have a conference.
All right, Todd, keep Todd on hold just a second. See if he can clear his cell spot up just a minute. So check with him, see if his cell is a little bit better spot. We're due a commercial break, so we'll see if we got his cell back. If not, we'll hold until the break for him. And that'll open up a phone line for you as well at 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. I'll tell you what, since we're having trouble with Todd, Todd's welcome to call back. You are as well. Again, the number 877-420-TALK. We'll continue with this when we continue with the show here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Ad Council.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann, the 2019 West Virginia Broadcasters Association Best Talk Show on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. We got, hopefully, we're crossing our fingers, we got Todd's cell phone cleared up. So, Todd, my man, finish your thought, man. We have tried so hard. Let's get this going. You've got things to say to the people. Do we have him? We don't have Todd. Don't have Todd. All right. 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. All right. Hey, the good news is we're generous. Yeah, if you have cell problems, we do make allowances for it. All right, we got it squared away now, right? Promise? All right. Gabriel's going crazy in there. He's losing his mind. He thinks I'm going to blame him. I'm blaming the technology. All right, Todd, here you go.
Paul, I apologize. I'm stationary now, buddy.
All right, good deal. All right, hit me with it.
We were talking about how many teams we're going to let in this conference. My question was, how many do we have to have a conference championship game? Would that be 12?
I think you can get away with 12. I think you get away with. I mean, because remember, after all, the Big 12, which doesn't have 12, they can have theirs. So you don't have to have 12.
Okay.
So because obviously they're having their championship game, but they're not. They don't have 12 in their Big 12 conference.
Right. Well, we mentioned WKU and Middle and Appalachian State. What names you suggest?
Well, here's the question: will Western and Middle say no to this idea if we throw this out there? Because we're looking at two teams that left this thing, and you've got Coastal Carolina.
That's a good one.
Okay.
That's a good one. Up and coming.
You got Georgia State. You got Georgia Southern.
Which one was the one we used to play?
Georgia
in
Southern.
The 1AA days?
Georgia Southern.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looks
So
like,
for older herd fans, Appalachian State and Georgia Southern. Oh yeah, let's do that. Those games make sense for the older herd fans. Younger herd fans, they know not what we speak. Then there's Troy. Troy's not bad. Troy's not bad at all.
We're getting out of geographic range there, though.
True, but are we talking Marshall's geographic range or the rest of conference USA 2.3 or 3.5 or 7.9? I mean, then you got Arkansas State. You throw Arkansas State in there, that's going to be a little closer to Western and Middle Tennessee.
Well, let me throw a couple names out here. How about Ohio? How about the Bobcats?
But does Ohio leave the MAC? Does Ohio, the team that most likely will be there to turn the lights off, will that school leave the Mid-American Conference?
You know, as I consider this, Paul, it seems like the MAC schools will be the hardest to pry away.
They know
that feel?
Yeah, because I don't think the MAC schools have I'm not saying they don't want to play for championships or anything, but I don't think they sit there and see that the future is trying to jump onto one of these other conferences. They see that, you know what, we're the MAC. We've been here the longest. We're going to be here. when this all blows over, we're still going to be here and we're going to be fine.
They're content. They know what they are.
Yeah, they do. They know what they are. I mean, they're not content to be mediocre because they definitely have improved, but they have an understanding that, hey, this is the MAC. This is what we are. Ohio, Miami, you mean to tell me that series would go away if Ohio was in a different conference and they couldn't play that every year? I mean, that's their biggest rival. Ohio and Miami, those schools love getting after each other.
Well, that's where the whole conference thing really just I'm not down with it at all. I mean, why don't Marshall and Ohio play every year?
That's scheduling. That's it. That's the scheduling.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. When the school up north can't play Pitt, when the school up north can't play Virginia Tech, when the school up north has to go, when their closest conference member is somewhere in Iowa, something's wrong with the whole thing.
Well, the whole idea of West Virginia and the Big 12 was they were getting off a sinking ship, and they got a nice bump in pay. They've got a conference where right now they are considered relevant, and so they've enjoyed the windfall of that, and they've had to sacrifice a little bit schedule-wise. I mean, Pitt's going to be on the schedule in 2022. Pitt's going to be on the schedule in 2023, 2024, and 2025. I know you don't get excited for that right now, but they're back on the schedule. They're playing.
There's nothing about the school up north that excites me, and I don't want to give them a lot of airtime here, but I'll give you another one, Oklahoma, Nebraska. How can that not happen every year?
Nebraska saw a better situation for Nebraska and decided, let's jump. Because really, who's in the better seat right now? Probably Oklahoma, just because they're in the catbird seat. But I would think long term, you're probably in a better position if you're in the Big Ten.
Yeah, but I'm talking about just strictly from a fan of college football, from a college football fan standpoint. That game has to happen.
You would think that. You would think the games that we would want to see would happen, but somewhere, someone hit the first domino, and then the rest of the dominoes started to fall, and then the money started becoming the bigger priority. I mean, are you going to play a football game on a Saturday if you are a traditional school in one of these Group of 5 conferences? Or are you going to take the money if you are, say, the MAC and play that crazy Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, whatever schedule that is? And the MAC has said, yes, we'll do that. And so they're taking the money. Thankfully, you've had an athletic director that has stood his ground and said, look, I'm not taking those crazy games. And it makes sense, I'll take it, but it's not going to happen. And I think more and more you're going to see those crazy schedules, and you're going to see these things that are not serving the fans in the stands necessarily for these, Group of 5 schools. It's going to serve the television audience. It's going to serve the television contract. That's what is happening here and has been happening.
That's exactly right.
College athletics is serving the television contract, not the fans of college athletics, because I could have an extra 2 or 3 or 4,000 people show up at my game on a Saturday if I'm in the MAC, or I can get paid more. Play on Thursday.
I agree 100%. You bring up a whole another point. It absolutely gags me when Marshall moves their games to a Thursday or especially Friday. Friday night is high school football. Nobody watches, and then you take the fans out of the seats that would have been there on Saturday. The loyal Herd fans. That I do not agree with those decisions whatsoever, and I wish Hamrick would put an end to that.
Well, he couldn't change the Boise State game because that's Boise, and that's on ESPN too, so you can't change that one. And then the game against Florida Atlantic, it's on the road. CBS Sports Network's got that. That's a Friday night. And then the other Friday game is a 7 p.m. contest on the 15th of November against Louisiana Tech. CBS Sports Network. it had to make enough sense to make that happen. I mean, he sacrificed one home game on a Saturday for a Friday, and the other two really not in his control.
The away games don't bother me that much, but the home games do, because we got a good tailgating community there at Marshall. We got a good loyal fan base that shows up, and when you move those games to Friday night, and then I think you got to take care of the fans first.
I understand that. I believe that too. I believe that too. You have to take care of the fans first because they're the ones buying your tickets. But at the end of the day, what's going to be better for the university revenue-wise? You take a Friday game. It's probably going to generate more revenue for you.
I wish there could be a study. Like if you lose people, you're going to lose fans in the seats. How much? What kind of dollars are we talking there? And then what's that? Maybe it might have a trickle effect where people just like, you know what, I'm done with this.
All right, my friend. Appreciate the phone call.
Take our best game.
We are out of time. I would have you on more, but we are out of time. When that music hits, that means I've got to be quiet in a few short moments. For our producer today, Gabriel Sellerts, I'm Paul Swann. This has been The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Don't forget, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher Radio. You want to listen to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. And you can also find me on Twitter at Paul Swann. You can also find us on Facebook, The Drive with Paul Swann. That's going to do it for this edition of the show here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Good night, everyone.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.